And hey everybody, we are live on Facebook and on YouTube, Conspiranormal Podcast. And as you can see, Bigfoot down there is holding the record album Selling the Sizzle.
Because
Who's
that's
that
what
by,
we're doing.
Bigfoot?
We're selling
What's
the
that?
sizzle of the Strange Realities 2020 streaming conference.
Yes, we are. And we have one of the presenters at the 2020 Strange Reality Streaming Conference. Mr. Guy Malone is with us.
Hey, buddy.
Guy, welcome back to Conspiranormal.
Welcome back, or good to be back again. You guys are
good to
looking
have you
scary today.
Yeah. And this thing is really hot.
That's even scarier.
So, I don't know. It looks like we got like a static picture here. You're not moving. Yeah. But we're just we got audio, so we can kind of just go with it, I guess. So.
Oh, you can't see me moving?
No, you're not moving.
Wow. Hey, let's do a little technical work. See if I get closer to my Wi-Fi.
You're just a static blob.
Am I moving? Are you seeing flashes of light?
Nope.
No.
If you want to leave, you can leave the stream and come back in if you want.
We know you're close to all those secret bases and crash sites.
Yeah. Roswell in Roswell, New Mexico. Why don't you come back in with Chrome? That might be a good way to do it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that might be why you're freezing up.
Sorry, folks.
All right, no problem. We're gonna get you the stream.
BRB.
That's what we're doing. Yep.
Okay, so that's the joy of doing things. That's the joy of doing things live, folks. Is that you never know what's going to happen. So just while we're waiting on a guy to kind of come back here, we're just going to talk a little bit about the Strange Realities Conference and what we got going on, and just a few like kind of housekeeping things about that. I think it's a good thing to do. So we're about as we're streaming this now on September 15th, in about 10 days, we are going to be live on the Strange Realities Conference. Okay, so just a big housekeeping thing for everybody. We are streaming this thing live on Facebook. Okay, so that means some of you may be watching this on the Strange Realities secret Facebook page, which is one person. So that means that you already know what you're doing. So congratulations. So we want to just re-emphasize the point. If you do not have Facebook, make a Facebook account and get on there.
Or use someone else's that you have in your household.
Yeah. Just be sure you answer the 2 questions to get into this private Facebook account, private Facebook group, because those 2 questions are if you've bought a ticket and what name you bought the ticket under. Because sometimes you may want to just use another name on your Facebook account, already have another name on your Facebook account. Right. So that's vitally important. And it looks like we might have Guy back, so let's bring him back in. All right, Guy, are you there?
I'm trying to be there.
Okay, looks like you're trying to reconnect.
Yeah, I went back indoors.
So we are having some little technical difficulties here.
This is all on me, guys. Adam did a really good test beforehand. We've done this twice.
Are you still on Chrome? Because I noticed you've got another one on here too. So
let me see.
Okay, well, he's sorting that out. So anything you want to add to that, Sir Phil, what I was just talking about?
Really, this is just the best way to do it at this point. We want to find some other ways in the future. I know there are definitely reasons why it's not optimal to be depending on a private Facebook group, but as of right now, it is really the best way to do this. YouTube has a lot less capabilities than it used to have for things like this. And
Yeah.
we don't even know about a future for really doing this on Facebook, as they are probably moving against uh, things like this, as well as music streams and things that were announced real recently. But for this one, it's what we're going to do, and we're going to have the videos on there to see for as long as we can. If we do encounter any problems with them, we will find another way to host the videos to give everyone access to those after the conference. That's going to be a big element of this, because I know not everyone is going to be able to catch the speakers they want to see in particular at those times. And then also, you'll just have the freedom to go back and revisit things, because there'll be a lot of cool information.
Yeah, and also we're doing this when you guys see the schedule, which I'm going to post here fairly soon onto the website. That's all on Eastern time, so that's going to be obviously different for everybody, since we got everybody's schedule. We've pretty much got a lot of people all different parts of the country and all different parts of the world. So we just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. Now, not everybody's going to really be up at like 3 o'clock in the morning in England or somewhere like that. So you guys will be able to see this. So looks like Guy is back. All right, Guy.
Yeah.
We got you.
All righty. All I had to do was come inside. Sorry, it's a little darker, guys. We'd experimented with it's too dark in here to where I wasn't getting a good picture of me. So I went outside, and in going outside, I unplugged my cable, and the Wi-Fi was not strong enough to support me all the way outside.
Okay.
Technical difficulties solved.
Cool.
Yeah, it happens. So, Guy, we're happy to have you at the Strange Realities Conference coming up here. This is your second year, because you were actually with us here in Nashville in 2019.
Yeah, it was a great time too. Yeah, thank you. Different topic, but it was a great time. Good
and
job.
Everyone can go back everyone can go back and watch that, because we got that posted on YouTube and everything now. It's a really cool presentation.
I did want to recommend that, actually. I'm glad you brought that up, sir, because I'm kind of, the lectures, I do it sort of as a 1-2 punch, because the topic I'm doing this year won't be as popularly received, I don't think. People will be very disinclined to believe the hypothesis, oh, are aliens demons? Here's the evidences that a lot of people attribute to the what's called the demonic hypothesis, as opposed to the extraterrestrial hypothesis. So knowing, when I'm going into it, knowing how unpopular an idea or even preposterous that could be to some people, for my first trick, as you remember, I do the Roswell crash talk, and basically put forth a ton of research showing people that this was most likely a man-made event. And if people listen to that research, and you were there, I saw when you streamed it a while back, someone said Jennifer Campbell, it was their favorite presentation from last year's, which was
yeah, she did. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that was an honor, actually. I wouldn't expect that, because I know even that's an unpopular view. But the point is, I can do the research, and I prove myself, I think, to actually put forth a very unpopular view convincingly. So with that as my track record, I hope at least people that are returning from last year or who are watching it online this year will go, okay, well, we'll give this guy a chance with this one, but I don't know.
Yeah, we were happy to stream all that. That gave everybody kind of a nice little preview, and I actually got to rewatch that, because I had seen that. I'd actually gone to see you in Roswell back in 2017, and got to help you out with your conference over there during the 70th anniversary of the whatever crash at the Roswell, New Mexico. For people that may have not heard that presentation, can you kind of give like a little bit of a, like, what the skinny is on that?
Yeah, love to. And again, you can watch this for free on Adams. Is that my theme music when I walk into the room? Like,
I don't know what that was.
It was 1947 was the Roswell incident, where very believable, credible story that a craft of unknown origin crashed in the desert and was retrieved, brought back by the Army Air Base. eventually to Roswell, New Mexico. It didn't happen in Roswell, New Mexico, but there was a cover up, and people thought eventually that it might be from outer space, and they tried to squash that story for a while. He was definitely know the name Stanton Friedman, and other authors in the 70s started pushing, really digging for the extraterrestrial explanation of that Roswell crash, which has been the prevailing, or most very popular view, at least in pulp fiction and in conspiracy crowds. That it was from
And
outer space.
conspiranormal too. Yeah.
Yeah, you're ahead of your time with that one there. Surprised nobody coined that phrase decades ago. Good job, Adam.
Thank you.
But I guess the most popular belief is that the Roswell crash was alien in origin, and the U.S. government covered it up. So we have this Roswell UFO Festival every year, where speakers and enthusiasts come from all over the world, either to hear serious lectures on the topic, most of them putting forth the alien view, showing their evidences or their reasons for believing it was alien. And you've seen as well, you have people dressing up who really don't care about what's the truth or what's reality. They just, let's get drunk and put on some costumes and have a good time. Bring the kids out, buy some cotton candy. So that's the festival atmosphere. So in the midst of that, based on research I was doing in the early 2000s, when I first put it up on 2002, I put forth a very well received man-made, or an alternative view, showing that it was a man-made incident that mostly involved the work. The aircraft was designed based on German Nazi scientists, models and prototypes that they were building for Hitler in World War II. Nowadays, everybody's almost anyway heard of this Operation Paperclip, where we know our government moved German soldiers over here. But in the 40s, in 1947, during the Roswell incident, that was not common knowledge. It was above top secret. To some degree, it was happening against the direct orders of our president at the time. But all I do with that presentation is I do side-by-side photographs and drawings of the Roswell incident, the witnesses, the stuff that's published in all the popular books. Here's what they say they saw. Here's what they cleaned up. And then put it side by side with the German designs from the 1940s. And it's, for many people, it's a slam dunk. The show's over right then, as soon as you see that what the witnesses from Roswell were drawing or were claiming that they worked with looks just like the German craft from the 1940s. And it went over pretty well at your event. It usually kind of does. I see some chat.
It was that's our little private chat. Yeah, this definitely was quite. I think you really had everybody kind of on the edge of their seats on that one.
Yeah.
This was kind of a, and I think what you're going to do this time is kind of a sequel to that. But I want to talk a little bit about just what's life like there in Roswell, because I mean you came back to Nashville a little while. That's kind of where you and I became friends. But what's life like in Roswell, New Mexico, in the center of alien UFO weirdness?
That one weekend a year is when it's at the peak weirdness. But as hard as it is for a lot of people to picture, not so much for you because you've literally been here, but it's kind of a quiet, small city, big town, bordering on 50,000 population. We probably are over 50,000. The census is coming up, but I showed up here for the first time in 1999 after moving from Nashville, and the census then, all the work was, everybody register for the census so we can break 50,000, and that's great for federal funding. That's great for Olive Garden and big businesses that'll come to your town once you hit that magic number of 50. So it's been bordering on 50,000 since 1999, but it's not a huge city. It is very tourism driven. Let's leave COVID out of the equation for now anyway. There's more hotels per capita than almost anywhere you could imagine you are. In Nashville, you drive up and down, you see a Shoney's and a church on every other corner. Here, you drive down Main Street and West 2nd, and you see hotels. Do that frequently. So we get a lot of tourism here, and a lot of it's business tourism. You know, the cattle industry is really big here, or really the dairy industry. You were joking earlier about the flies here. That hasn't changed. And,
Yeah, when Rob and I were there about 3 years ago, it was just like we were overcome by flies. Like there were just flies everywhere. And we were like, "What's up with all the flies?" And I asked you about it, and you said, "Oh, it's the cattle yards." And I was like, "Okay, well that makes sense." I thought maybe Beelzebub had taken up camp in Roswell, New Mexico. I
it
think
feels
that's what
that way sometimes.
I think that's what Dr. Heiser would have said, right? Pretty much.
Maybe. Lord of the Flies, yeah. Not
But
him,
like
the Lord of the Flies.
Roswell is interesting because like just about everywhere you go has some kind of like weird UFO theme. Like there's the McDonald's with the UFO with the flying saucer embedded in it, and there's like the where Rob and I stayed, the Motel 6. There was like this interesting Roswell,
I know that
like
one.
these alien like chainsaw art things.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing that happened to me not too long ago, I was actually at work and I was making a delivery, and this a couple of months ago, and I saw one of those in front of somebody's house, like the green alien chainsaw art statue, and I was like, and I asked him, I was like, I've seen one of those. I went to Roswell and saw him, like, oh, my dad went to Roswell and brought that for me. We're from there.
Oh, I want a picture. They're from there, living in
Yeah.
Nashville?
Yeah, they're from there living in Nashville, just the reverse of you.
Oh, we should change phone numbers or something.
Reverse of you, Guy.
Yeah.
But let's talk just a little bit. I want to just give everybody a teaser. Obviously, we're not going to talk about like the meat of it, but kind of what are you going to be speaking about at our conference coming up next weekend?
I will go back. You said all those, you see these alien images everywhere you go. I'm going to start out the presentation with a lot of pictures of Roswell and just sort of answer that question visually. What's it like living here? Other than being a good, wholesome, all-American city, small town, the UFO tourism is to the max, even to the point that it's like idolatry going down the road. You just see these images everywhere, and we're saturated with it. And I'll be giving you, just from photographs of walking around the town, a little preview of that. I like to start out so people kind of know, what's it like to live in Roswell with that. But to the point that it's actually, some people love it because it's money. Some people hate it because it's either they either think it's ridiculous or they might think it's demonic. It's similar to what we were talking about, the cattle and the flies, actually, is that just for purpose of analogy, Roswell has like 60 dairies in the whole county. It's one of the main dairy capitals of the world. And you'll find this interesting in your business, is that there's literally the milk company here, Leprino, they literally process over 1 million gallons of milk per day for making cheese. But you and I can't go to the store and buy Leprino cheese off the shelf because their customers are like Papa John's and Pizza Hut. They're not catering to you and I personally. But so the downside of that is that, well, with all that many dairies, you would not believe there's a ton of employment here because of the cheese plant and the dairy. So it's great for the economy. What's the downside? Well, in the summer, the flies are pretty bad, as you've seen. So sort of by similarity, by analogy that I've never made before, so I'm doing this off the cuff, is this alien thing is also a good source of income for the town. It does bring tourism. It brings people taking their pictures. They may dip off of I-40 or stay an extra night or two if they're traveling across country just to come to the museum and say they've been here. So it likewise is a good source of income, or tourism dollars, taxation revenue for New Mexico. But the downside is you might say the love of money is the root of all evil. My experiences myself, I lean into this topic having been an experiencer of what I thought was pretty tormenting visitations when I was a kid. You've heard a little bit about that from me in the past, and read where I put it online as an autobiographical book back in the day, right? You're familiar with that.
Yeah.
After the Heaven's Gate cult suicide and the things that the so-called aliens were teaching the people, do you remember that? I mean, I think Adam does. You've heard me tell the story.
Yeah, that's what I remember. At this one moment, Guy, we're getting some major audio interference. I don't know what it is.
I think your mic is feeding back on you, Guy. I think that's what it is. Are you holding it?
Let me move it a bit.
Okay.
Is that any better or worse?
Yeah.
That's better. Yeah.
Okay. I'm hearing you better now too. I think it was the internet again.
Cool.
Yeah. I think the mic was feeding back on you a little bit.
Okay. Good to know. It's a new mic. But I am coming. I've based on my personal experiences with so-called visitors. I really don't think they were aliens, but then that's an experiences that were repeated in my childhood that I, for the most part, kept to myself. Didn't talk to it about a lot of people. Learned some painful lessons with friendship when you do bring that sort of stuff up when you're, young and the world doesn't really know much. Actually, the pre-internet world didn't have access to conspiracy theories and stuff like we do now. But after the Heaven's Gate cult suicide that happened in the late 90s, as a point of reference, I started studying their beliefs, and that the way they claimed was that the leaders were the reincarnation of Jesus and the Father, and that the way to heaven was to hop on this UFO that was passing by the Earth on the comet Hale-Bopp, and then they even claimed that their beliefs kind of spun out of the Bible too. So that put me, that kind of shocked me that 39 people would kill themselves based on a belief system that, to my mind, outlandish, weird, strange, whatever. It's America. You're free to believe what you want to believe. But the idea that the way to heaven was to board a UFO after killing yourself, that's some crazy doctrinal belief if you're going to pin it to the Bible. So it put me on a big search of actually exploring the belief systems of the UFO cults and the contactees and the experiencers. Adamski, for instance, people whose work has been covered for decades that were prominent in the 50s and 70s. And one of the three ways I look at the topic of, are aliens really demons or demonic creatures pretending to be aliens? And you can lighten up the word a little bit, because I know that's a very religious word. The idea that demons even exist is probably preposterous to a lot of people. But if you just go with the semantics of paranormal, jinn, genies, other dimensional entities, shadow people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think people in this realm that would be in your audience, they'd be willing to hear it out. Like 500 years ago, for example, a common analogy. Even Whitley Strieber made this example, actually, now I think about it, but I quote it in my book from the 90s as well, is that 500 years ago, like in Europe, you had a similar experience to what we are calling the alien abduction phenomena. But it was called elves and fairies then. You had little wee people with big eyes and advanced magic, they would have believed then, magic wands. They would abduct loners, take them from their homes. In those cases, they went out to the woods. They'd have lewd sex or dancing and weird things, and then the person would be returned to their home or their bed with just wild stories of the night they had with the fairies. And my belief is that it's the exact same phenomena, just interpreted under a different guise nowadays. What we used to call elves and fairies, we are now calling aliens. So I'll give a little bit of a research into what some of the main contactees and UFO cults that have been, they claim to be in communication with aliens. I go through a lot of books on the PowerPoints and just give you direct quotes about what are aliens telling people. What are aliens leading people to believe in? And I also quote like Carl Sagan, Dr. Mack from Harvard, John Mack, MD, a lot of non-religious, non-Christian, and non-spiritual scientists and researchers on what they believe aliens are telling people and how they are directing society, and kind of compare it to a biblical worldview. And you eventually you get this very interesting contrast. It's a 180 degrees different from anything the Bible talks about. Where it speaks of spirituality, the aliens bring a very different message, actually. And it's not just different, it's 180 degrees opposed, diametrically opposed, I'd say. But again, kind of like that Roswell talk, it's one thing for me to say I believe the Roswell incident was man-made. But when the people give me an hour to lay out the evidence or the proof, they're like, huh, wow, he convinced me. In many cases, a large part of the audience. So I kind of try to repeat that trick with this. I take a premise that I think people are going to, at face value, consider preposterous, and then lay down some evidences. Again, John Mack, Carl Sagan, the Bible, Whitley Strieber, other experiencers and abductees, and just to paint a picture of that this is not a benevolent aliens here to help us kind of thing. I really believe it's demonic forces here to fool us. And I lay out that evidence and let people go, maybe not.
So being where you are, Guy, kind of like in the center of UFO world, I guess for lack of a better term, doing this presentation and like you've basically have started like a ministry there that's kind of like the UFO themed kind of Christian ministry. Like, how much resistance do you get?
Surprisingly little, but if you turn the question around and ask how much support do you get, surprisingly little. Little of both.
So it's kind of like equal. It's kind of equal, huh? It's not really.
Yeah, I really
gotcha.
think the one thing I guess I've got going is that I make a calm, non-hyper religious presentation. I usually don't come across, unless I'm trying to sound like I'm crazy, that's fun from time to time. Paint myself up or all those other fun stuff I've done. But one, I just present information and let people make up their own mind. And in most cases, I'm told I do a pretty good job presenting some information that is very convincing in a way that about a view that people did not think at the front they would believe. But on the money, on the society side of it, it makes a lot of money here. This UFO alien thing makes a lot of money here. So to kind of combat it or come up with an idea that's saying this is really bad or this is really questionable, you're not going to get a lot of support because, like I said, the love of money is the root of all evil. The prevailing view in Roswell, even when I show you in my presentation, the city logo with an alien on it, the official Twitter account, it's like little benevolent deities here that have blessed Roswell. And, we're known the world over. You can go to Tokyo and say the word Roswell. You don't even have to say Roswell, New Mexico. People know what you're talking about. We've got brand recognition. It draws in tourism. It makes money. Therefore, it is good. So it's, other than friends and a church here and there, it's hard to get any real support, even though I am presenting the gospel to people in the local, the whole package side of the deal. But if you ask about the UFO museum or the UFO industry, I think on both sides, they would rather just ignore me and not have to respond. I don't get a lot of flack. I don't get a lot of opposition because then I would have to be acknowledged. You're not going to, and then when they look into my information, it's pretty darn convincing. So let's not pick a fight with this guy, I think that's how it's played out.
Yeah. I want to know if you find that there's a lot more activity in Roswell because it's kind of set up as this like temple to the aliens, pretty much. Like, do you find in your ministry that there's a lot? Does it seem like there's a lot more activity of people having these type of experiences than other places because it's almost like inviting it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like you're opening the door. It's definitely the Mecca. For some reason, there may be many reasons, I don't think there's a ton more paranormal activity or people claiming alien experiences that live in Roswell that are, that this is their home. I'd say on average, it's probably the same as in Nashville, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And I know in some areas you can have heavy occult influences. Mm-hmm. Here, other than what we've talked about, Roswell has like over 100 churches as well. So it's in some ways a fairly conservative, well-grounded Christian community in that sense, to where the people that live here aren't, for the most part, jumping into the occult and opening themselves to certain experiences, which I think do overlap with the alien abduction. You remember Sleep Paralysis Talk by Mike.
Yeah, my cousin.
He has a
Yeah.
stage name. He has a stage name that I can't remember right now. But
Tom Bionic. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. To the $6 million. Yes. Yeah. But Surf, it's the people that come here. When I had a shop downtown years back across from the UFO Museum, um, people would come here with their stories, and many of them that were already deeply into this stuff, they'd tell me that they'd be 2-3 hours outside of Roswell, and they'd see a light in the sky. I do hear, in answer to your question, it's yes, there is a fair amount of activity, but you hear about it from the tourists who came here already predisposed to being involved with
like a
this.
pilgrimage kind of.
Yeah, it's definitely a mecca. That's a good word for it. I've used that analogy in the past. That if you're an experiencer or an abductee, or if you just have a really, really strong intellectual curiosity, or if it's just for fun and giggles, Roswell is a mecca that draws people that are curious about that because they think they're going to get some sort of life-changing truth or life-changing experience here. At least in the back of their mind, they're hoping for that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been it's sometimes when you meet a guy that comes and tells you the exact opposite of what you were hoping to hear, that can be a let you down experience.
Yeah.
But I've also had a lot of people actually just thank you, for presenting this to me in a way that I've never heard before. So it's a little bit of both, actually. I don't do it full time downtown anymore like I used to, but I do pass out these calendars of events every hotel in Roswell, rather than doing conferences and rather than having a storefront where people come in and I talk to them. I did that in the years past, but now I have a little calendar of events. It's called the Roz Guide. Oh, is this one? It kind of is, yeah. I don't know if you can see this perfectly. Just have things to do in Roswell, and I just list the concerts and the plays and, little things going on, the museums, things to see. And at the very bottom of it, there's a QR code reader that actually takes tourists, anybody. You aim your phone at it, and you'll get my YouTube talks. So you might say I've sort of automated the ministry. Mine is more a ministry of information and letting people make up their own mind. I just give you kind of just the facts, ma'am. So that's actually the bulk of what I do as far as a ministry is I have these little cards in every hotel in Roswell for the people, the tourists that are coming here to learn the truth. They'll go to the UFO museum. They'll spend some money. They'll buy a T-shirt downtown, but quite often they leave with 2 videos of me discussing the topic online for them, and then I'll get a little email or something from people that have seen it. In fact, Adam knows I'm not waiting tables full time now, but for most of the time in Roswell, I was a waiter at one of the popular restaurants, and I was actually I've had people tell me like they checked into their hotel at night and then they come out the next night or whatever like that. I've actually waited on people to where the guy he looks at me and goes, "Wait a minute, I'm just watching a video with you on it. You're on YouTube, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me."
Actually, I think I told somebody about this not that long ago about there was one of the YouTube videos, somebody actually took that and made it and were like claiming that you were a reptilian.
Oh, I love that one. No, that's a pretty old one, unless it's a newer new one. But yeah, I know the one you mean. God,
Yeah, it's the
another
same
friend of
one. I
mine.
don't.
Yeah, was I in a green shirt? I think that was honestly from the 2007.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
Doctor Future was at one of those conferences, I think, or was he at a couple of them?
yeah. Christian Symposium on Aliens.
Yeah,
I
yeah. We'll,
I
we'll be
had
talking to the doc later on tonight. So
say hi. He did a great presentation on that. It was really since you mentioned that to have 3 PhDs gathered in one place presenting similar information to mine or to back up what I'm going to be offering your people. That was a pretty good feeling. It took a while.
who
William
was the
Alner,
who?
PhD,
Okay, okay.
Michael Heiser, Dr. Future, but Mike Bennett, and actually by proxy, Stephen Eulish. He wrote in, but he couldn't travel that year. But again, I think the topic that I'm tasked with presenting for you are aliens, demons. Ooh, evidence that makes you go, I think honestly, I know it sounds preposterous at first, and I think large part is because people just don't believe demons exist. Period. So to make the case, actually, I'm glad you brought it up because and I remember historically speaking, like lifetime achievement wise, weird way to say it, to have 3 PhD. What I was saying is very complementary views that very intricately work together. That was made me feel like I was on the right track, or that I think I always knew I was on the right track, but I think it let other people see that maybe this guy's on the right track.
Well, we were just speaking just a few hours ago to Reverend Michael Carter, who I actually had you on the show with quite a few years ago. And we talked about how we kind of talked about you guys' experiences, kind of like how you guys kind of come from a common kind of background religiously, and then how like your experiences were similar, how they were different, what you got out of each experience. And he is actually going to be presenting on the same day you are, just a few hours before you, about UFOs in the Bible. And so he's going to be talking about how like some of the, he I guess he believes somewhat in like a physical existence of these beings. I know that you're much more on the spiritual side, as am I. But there seems to be like his experiences seem very spiritual in nature, and for him they were very positive experiences as well, whereas yours kind of leaned much more towards the negative.
Well, torment, rape, pain, and then indoctrination. That would be a brief, succinct way of saying it, maybe. I don't really try to describe it.
I think that's a good way. I think that's a good way to put it. So, like, what's kind of your response to people that have these much more are when they're talking about these more positive experiences? Do you think they're actually having, for the most part, positive experiences, or is there kind of is there more going on here?
Yes, I think they could be having positive experiences, but also, yes, I think there's also more going on. And I think Joe Jordan's put it real well in the years past. It's a good cop, bad cop scenario where you have the one that seems to have your best interests at heart, helping you out and doing you favors, and in some ways protecting you from the one who just wants to slam you in jail and make all these threats. So you kind of side with the good cop eventually, give them what they want without ever realizing that the two are working together and on the same team the whole time. The thing is, I remember when we talked with Dr. Carter, he and I got
one of my favorite shows. I mean, it really was one of my favorite shows from that time. Yeah.
I should listen to it again, but I do recall he and I got along great. It wasn't a debate. He presented his experiences and his views. I presented mine and my views. But what I find about this topic specifically, aliens, abduction, demonic, or whatever like that, is that I've seen not just, I don't know how Dr. Carter presents it, but I know like the History Channel had their UFOs in the Bible series years ago, which you might even say was the pilot episode or the precursor to the whole Ancient Aliens series. I think actually Dr. Heiser, Mike, he actually he got this look in his eye like he complimented, said, yeah, that is a good way to put it. That the show that both he and I were interviewed for actually on History Channel years ago, UFOs in the Bible, it turned out like that was the pilot or the kickstart to the whole ancient, but it presents the view that the fire by night, cloud by day that Moses and the Israelites followed was really a UFO that God was working through. These many aliens, when I present it to you, many aliens literally tell people in their experiences, positive or negative for that matter, that think much that you read in the Bible is really a UFO experience. And even something as some would say crazy as the idea that Mary was not really born of a virgin, but that she was artificially inseminated with alien DNA, and that Jesus was a hybrid, and that's why he had all
that actually came up when we talked to Reverend Carter.
which kind of disheartens me, makes me sad. But to me, it eventually, the logic on that, or the reasoning that people use, and the reason that is almost an easy sell for people, is that you will make the claim that, well, people 2,000 years ago, they didn't understand genetics, they didn't understand DNA. So the idea of an artificial insemination would have been a little, beyond their science, beyond their head. So it was the primitive, stupid, superstitious people of thousands of years ago that just called UFOs and aliens gods and angels and devils. They didn't know what they were pre-scientific. They were superstitious. It's like the Arthur C. Clarke, that any advanced technology appears as magic to one generation or to one era. If you take a lighter or this computer or a TV or something like that back a few hundred years in time, it's going to be indistinguishable from magic, like he says. But I think it just calls people to make a choice. Is that I turn that argument around, and I kind of like to say that the scientific and the unspiritual and kind of the spiritually dead people of this generation, when we're confronted with a genuinely supernatural experience, we try to superimpose science to explain it away. Oh no, that wasn't really a ghost or a poltergeist or an alien. It was swamp gas or a hallucination, or you must have eaten some bad mushrooms, years ago back in the day, and it's you're tripping, you're flashbacking. So just take the example I used. Either what the Bible says, that Mary was a virgin and that there was a supernatural divine birth, born of the Holy Spirit, and that is where Jesus came from, and he is God in the flesh, Son of God, I and the Father are one. Either that's true the way the Bible states it, and you and I and everybody in the world is free to choose whether they believe that statement or not, or you can turn it around and say aliens impregnated Mary, and Jesus was a hybrid child, and that's why he had superpowers. Everything, that's one example of many I could offer. Everything about this topic actually calls you to make a choice on what you believe and don't believe. And it's very central to what you believe about the Bible, God, Jesus, and even eternity. And spoiler, that's many of the quotes that I give in the talk that I'll be doing for you this weekend. I'm literally showing you out of the mouths of contactees and abductees, and in the books by John Mack of Harvard, Dr. Carla Turner, PhD. I'm giving you the exact direct quotes about what people, either under hypnosis or as they remember, are saying. Here's what the aliens told me. I'll give you like easy dozen quotes. And then you will see, even if you're not a Christian, I think if you're an American in this day and age, you have enough, quote, Bible knowledge or cultural Christianity to realize, whoa, what these boogers are saying is really 180 degrees diametrically opposed to what the Bible teaches. So I keep coming back to it whenever I'm this deep or getting pretty deep into this conversation, is that you're going to be swayed by one view or another, and it is going to call you to make a choice. In some cases, an eternal choice, and I really think that's the point of it, is that the aliens are calling people to make eternal choices that go against what the Bible teaches us about salvation in Jesus. And that's how you get a UFO cult suicide of 39 people, because they believed a deceiving doctrine. That's what 1 Timothy says. You'll see that near the end of my lecture. Deceiving spirits and doctrines of devils. Aliens are giving these doctrines like Mary was impregnated by an alien, or like the Israelites followed a UFO. That was the fire by night. That Elijah jumped on a chariot of fire. That was a UFO that took him up into heaven. That when Jesus rose and ascended into heaven in front of the disciples, he was just really being beamed back up aboard the mothership. It's one reality or another, though. I mean, it's a black and white stark contrast. By the time I'm done, I don't think the viewer or listener will have much room for choosing a shade of gray.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily have to be a Christian to get the thing about that. A lot of it that's going on with the Ancient Aliens crowd is trying to explain all these type of incidents as in a materialistic kind of viewpoint. I don't think you need to even be a Christian. It's just accept that like this is mystical. This is mystical stuff that's happening. This is mystical literature. It's not in some ways it may not even be meant to be taken quite literally. So like, but even then, it's like, don't you kind of like, I kind of lose patience with the kind of materialistic crowd, because it's like they want to explain things all by this materialism, which is really where Ancient Alien stuff comes in, if you really think about it. And just besides the fact of what you're saying about making a choice, but it's like just understanding mysticism and religion and all these ideas, and it's just trying to do the materialist thing just doesn't really wash too much with me when there's so much more going on. And I think it's just trying to just like understand it from some kind of weird scientific viewpoint, and then it becomes its own, but then it becomes its own kind of religion, which is which is kind of the irony of it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of faith required on either end of it, actually. But that materialistic worldview that leads towards the ancient aliens belief, just as a meme. Actually, I saw it on a T-shirt once. It had a pyramid, and I liked it. It said, "Just because white people can't do it, doesn't mean it was aliens."
Yeah. I've seen that shirt.
But then I wanted to mention how even the most on the other side, people are still in the non-materialist paradigm, but even on the other side, the most die-hard occultist people who are into these ideas do acknowledge like the trickster element of whatever these things are.
You're right. So, that's why I kind of alluded to jinns, genies, stuff like that. I think that would be a more palatable term to a lot of people than saying demons outright. And I'm just using the a biblical word. You can trickster is excellent. I do think that's just an excellent way to say it, because
so then, like you said, it makes you really you have to decide. Well, what do you think about demons? Then you have to really, like you said, it forces that choice. Then do you think this is something you should interact with or not, or do you think this is well-meaning or not?
Good point, because even before I was a Christian, I became a Christian in my 20s. So occasionally I still can reflect on how preposterous I might sound occasionally, whether I'm talking about demons, aliens, or just the gospel itself. I mean, when you get down to it, belief that a man rose from the dead, that's just the price of admission. That's the ticket to this Christianity thing. And I'm sure there are a lot of Christians today, the studies show, that they, just like we're talking about the UFO cults, they are whitewashing and they are de-supernaturalizing the Bible themselves just because they have a scientific mindset. But in that trickster element, somehow years ago, when I was like 20, 21, college age, partying with my friends and all that stuff, my roommate got a Ouija board that he wanted to bring into the house and play with. And I'm like, no, that's not coming in here. I'd been to church 5 times in my life, maybe. I didn't have a strong feeling doctrinally, but I'm like, no, wait a minute. So basically you're inviting spirits to come into your home and communicate with you, and you're just supposed to believe that they're good and have your best interests at heart. I would not have used the term deceiver or trickster that early, 30 years ago almost. But yeah, that was my feeling about it, that there's a trickster element to the paranormal that can't be ignored, and that many greater researchers than I have pointed it out. Even people at your conferences last year, Adam.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's this is going to be interesting. I think Saturday is going to be really, really interesting to have these two we're going to have two kind of contrasting talks here, because we've got yours, and then before yours we have Reverend Carter's UFOs in the Bible. So this is going to be, we're definitely going to be giving people some a wide variety of viewpoints at this
And
conference.
I
I
want
think.
that actually. I'm not into
Yes.
censorship, and
Same here.
again,
Same here.
my whole approach at the end of the day is here's the information I have. Make up your own mind. If I'm convincing or not, or if
you are going to be speaking Eastern time at 4:10 to 5:10, which is 2:10 to 3:10 for you.
Right.
So you're going to be speaking then, and you're going to be presenting on what's the full text of it? The full title?
Are aliens demons? Evidences that make you go,
Cool.
First time I've used that title for it before. I've played around with different titles for almost the exact same presentation.
Is that an homage to the CNC Music Factory?
Yes, and that's an homage to you in a way, because like when I first was trying to pass this view off as I think it was, are aliens demons? Evidences for a spiritual point of view, where I'm trying to sound smart and non-threatening, and sometimes I've gone what is it? Not against flesh and blood. Are aliens demons? And and then that's targeted to Christians as a buzzword. But you've got a laid back approach, and your crowd is from many walks of life, open minded, but not afraid to think either.
Mm-hmm.
Not afraid to test and hear out. So many people. I mean, just the way Facebook and Google have got us all compartmentalized now, to where we sort of live in echo chambers. The work that you're doing, even putting Dr. Carter and I, in the same weekend, much less the same day, you're letting people be exposed to things they probably have not heard before, but you also have the ability, the gift to draw people from that diverse of backgrounds, and they're willing to hear something out. They're willing to walk away educated or changed, when so many other conferences out there, they're just parroting the same thing. You're going to a conference, you're hearing 10 speakers who all believe what you believe before you came, who all know what you know because you've done the same research, and you're just affirming each other's point of view. I like the way you do things. People they're gonna hear things they've never heard before, and they're gonna walk away, oh, that was interesting. I learned something. That might or might not change my mind in this one area. If I hear out Dr. Carter, we'll see if he changes my mind, for that matter. But ain't scared.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Guy. I mean, it's going to be great to have both of you on board with us. I think it's going to be really interesting, and we really do have a wide array of presenters. Before we let you go, tell everybody where they can find your ministry, your website, where they can get help with Bitcoin.
Thanks. Yeah. I've changed up, like you had mentioned. I moved away from here for 5 years, so I've sort of had to kind of re-up or rethink what I'm doing. So alienstranger.com is an old site that does have my 2010 videos on it, on these very topics that we're doing, and you can also link through and read my book, Come Sail Away. That actually, part of that book is my own personal experiences with visitors when I was young. I don't think they were aliens. You make up your own mind. But that book, or that story, sort of helps you walk through not my theology, not my Bible knowledge, but my personal life path from youth to adulthood, and coming to the conclusion that these experiences of mine were demonic. They weren't aliens. They were demonic. So, but also alienstranger.com and or roswellmission.org. They both give, it's a slightly more updated videos on the same topics with some newer information. So that's two good places to start. alienstranger.com, roswellmission.org. I kind of feel like I need to learn how to morph these into one side again.
We just cloned Surfiel. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Oh. That's a frozen image, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. There we go.
Millions.
Sorry about that, Guy. Sorry.
Yeah. No
We
worries.
interrupted your train of thought there.
My train of thought wrecked a long time ago. Yeah, roswellmission.org, alienstranger.com. It's got all the goods. It's free. I do have a book. I have videos, but you can watch it all online and read the book online. And yeah, as you said, if anybody later wants to hit me up, just my email it on this topic, or like you said, Bitcoin. I do have in the last couple years, last 4 years, I've really for some reason soaked up a lot of Bitcoin knowledge as a passion and a personal sovereignty freedom. It's a way to have money and to spend money without being authorized or declined by your bank or your governments, and it works. But I do know more than a little bit about that, actually, so I can give people links to how to learn more on that too. Well, now, thanks for even bringing that up. It is,
Yeah, yeah.
as long as you've known me, that is my newer, I won't say calling or passion, but similar to that. I put a lot of research into whether or not this is a good thing or bad thing. Don't think it's the mark of the beast.
Yeah, probably not. All right, Guy, thank you so much. And if you guys are interested and you're watching this, or you're watching it live, or you're watching it a little later on, Strange Realities Conference, you can see this. You can see the little ticker at the bottom, strangerealitiesconference.com. Guy and Reverend Carter are going to be part of that on September 25th through the 27th. You can sign up. Again, we are streaming from a secret Facebook group, so you will need a Facebook account to get on. And we will be back soon, later on tonight at 7:30 Eastern Time with Tony Kale and Jack Montgomery, and then later on with Dr. Future, Recluse, and Ren Collier. And David Metcalf will also be joining us for those as well. So come join us, and we will be back soon. Thank you so much, Guy.
Bye.
Yeah, great group. How many speakers total you got that weekend?
21.
Wow, good job.
It's gonna be something. So come join us, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, brother.
Thank you.